Is China witnessing another Tiananmen moment? People are on the streets calling for President Xi Jinping to step down.
Now, for the past nearly 3 years, the patience of over 1 billion people in China has been stretched. It's now growing thinner and thinner. Every lockdown and round of mass COVID testing in the country, the COVID-19 cases are surging and the country's economy is on a downward spiral. And China seems to be caught in a COVID-19 bind.
For the first time since the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989, China has seen widespread public protests. As a result, the Chinese government is facing unprecedented dissent, with thousands of demonstrators pouring onto the streets of China. The protesters attempted to stop officials from locking down their housing compounds. Some even asked Xi Jinping to step down. The protesters were against the country's draconian COVID-0 rules. Zero COVID policy involves mass testing and strict curbs whenever there is an increase in cases. The policy requires comprehensive contact tracing and lockdowns to control its spread. Presently, just 40% of Chinese citizens older than 80 have received a booster shot, despite months of campaigning. Protests in China and COVID-related shutdowns are the biggest fear in the market. Crude oil prices have already erased 2022 gains, while equity markets in Europe and the US have corrected. Energy and metal prices have fallen in anticipation of a slowdown. The last such widespread protests were held in 1989 when the Chinese government brutally crushed them. The current rally has also seen some decisive action by the Chinese police, yet the size of the demonstrations has been too large to be suppressed. If the protests continue and spreads, it will lead to a crisis the world has not seen in recent times. The Chinese economy is the world's second largest one. Being the largest producer of finished goods, China has slowed down its purchases of commodities, which has affected countries like Australia, South Africa, and Brazil. The zero COVID policy is considered a significant contributor to this slowdown, as it forced people to stay indoors, affecting jobs and incomes, besides disrupting supply chains. Till August 2022, at least 20 cities contributing to 10% of China's GDP were under lockdown. Add to that the housing crisis in China, a sector that accounts for a quarter of the country's GDP. Home buyers and banks were left stranded, with some of the biggest real estate companies defaulting. The Chinese government's takedown of big tech companies like Alibaba and taking the US head-on has also contributed to China's growth debacle. The change of the presidency in the US did not help China, and US President Biden attacked the heart of the Chinese new age companies by banning supplies of semiconductors to Chinese supercomputers, affecting their artificial intelligence program. The US has also prevented block chip makers worldwide from developing advanced chips for China. A slowdown in China for whatever reason will impact the world economy and by extension, global financial markets. Despite the war in Europe, signs of a slowdown has already sent crude oil prices to around $75 a barrel. China is caught in a tight corner. It cannot open its economy without fears of increasing COVID cases. But if the protest spreads, an even deeper slowdown cannot be ruled out.